Alright, now we have the player and we have the level. Even though we cannot control the player yet, what do you think is going to happen if we actually run the game? Let me show you. To run the game, you can also just press Alt plus P. Okay, first, everything looks too bright. And then you're gonna realize something weird. We are floating in the air and we can fly around. Well, this is definitely not what you would have expected, right? Not to mention we even have the motion blur effect here. To explain what's going on here, let's keep the game running and press the F8 key. This is going to detach us from the player controller. The game is still running, but we become the observer. Let me just slightly move around here. We can see a ball here. It's the default pawn that we were controlling. You're also gonna see many things that weren't there when you open the outliner. I mean, we just had the player and the tile map, right? You see this one, default pawn 0. We definitely didn't have it, right? Our BP player is still here. We have something like game mode base, game session, game state base, and HUD. It's overwhelming to see so many things that we have no idea about. Most of these things are generated by the game mode when the game starts. The game mode is a main class that handles the rules of the game in the Unreal Engine. Even our game is very simple at this stage, we still need to set up the game mode first, so the engine knows how to run the game. And because we haven't told the game mode what is the exact character that we want to control, the game mode just spawns a default pawn and let us control it. Alright, let me show you how to set up the game mode. Go to Edit, Project Settings, then go to Maps and Modes under Project. You can see the game mode is set to the game mode base class. We are not going to use this game mode base class. So first, we need to create our own game mode class. Let me close this window and stop the game. You can see things just disappear in the outliner. Let me bring up the content drawer. Go to the BP folder under the game folder. Here, let's create a new blueprint class. For the parent class, this time we can just select the game mode base from this list. This means we are going to create our own game mode class that inherits from the game mode base class. Let me rename it to BP underscore my game manager. Alright, let's open it. And we see this typical blueprint editor. We even have the viewport here, but it doesn't matter. Let's focus on the detail panel on the right. These are the things that we can change that would affect the gameplay. For now, the only thing we need to change is the default pawn class. This is the character that we are going to control, and let's set it to our BP player. And that's it. We do not need to touch anything else here. I'm just going to compile this blueprint and press Ctrl-Shift-S to save the new file. Alright, now we can close this blueprint editor. We also don't need this tile map editor anymore. Now we have our game mode ready, and we also need to set it as the default game mode of our game. Go to Maps and Modes in the project settings. Then let's set the default game mode to My Game Mode Manager. This is the new game mode we just created. Alright, let's play the game and see what is going to happen this time. Okay, we just fall down and we cannot fly this time. Let's press F8 to detach from the player controller. You can see we have two BP players in the outliner. And this BP player 0 was spawned by the game mode. Our original BP player is still there on the platform, and the BP player 0 is the one that we were controlling, and the one that fell down. Now you realize that the game mode always spawns a new player when the game starts. And the location is going to spawn the new player is right at the camera location in the editor. We want the new player to be spawned at a fixed place on the platform. To do this, we can add a player start to the world. Let's search for player start, then add it into the game world. Reset its location to 000 in the details panel. Alright, the next time we run the game, a new player is going to be spawned at this place. Let's move the BP player away. Because I want to see the 2D view the next time I test the game. I'm going to switch from the perspective view to the left view in the editor. By default, the left view is in the wireframe mode. Let's switch to the lit mode. The game also runs in the lit mode. So the visual we see here is the same as the actual game. Decrease the snap sizes to 1 so I can align the feet of the player with the ground. Let's just ignore the brightness for now. This is something we are going to fix in the next lecture. Keep in mind the player we are going to control is going to be spawned at this position. Let's press Alt plus P to run the game. Okay, it's completely black, so what is going on here? Let's press F8 to detach and investigate. Once we are detached, we can see there are 2 players in the world. So a new player was indeed spawned at the player start. Go to the perspective view. We can see the new player is also in the right Y position. So he stands on the platform. Let's stop the game. The reason we saw black is that we do not have a camera that's related to the player. So the engine creates a camera. The points along the x-axis in the 3D world, that makes sense we cannot see anything because the tail map and the player are flat. They don't have thickness. Let's add a camera to the BP player. Bring up the content drawer, open the BP player, click on Open Full Blueprint Editor. Before we do anything, I want to mention that adding a camera to the player blueprint is a very common solution. It's an easy solution, it works most of the time, but this is not the best solution for our game because I want the camera to be orthographic. It works best with our 2D pixel style. Adding a camera here to the player blueprint in many ways doesn't work very well with the orthographic camera. So I'm only demonstrating how to do this here. This is a fast way to add a camera, and it's a very common way, so it doesn't hurt to know. But later on, we are going to spend some time setting up the camera in a different way that would work with our game better. I'm also going to explain why that's a better way later on. For now, let's just add a camera here so we can quickly test the game. Let's hit the Add button and search for the spring arm. This is like a virtual arm where we can attach the camera to one end of it. This is not necessary, but it helps us manage the position of the camera like in a natural way. Let's rotate the arm along the z-axis by 90 degrees. With the arm selected, let's hit the Add button again to add a camera as a child to it. The camera appears at the end of the arm. We want to set the camera's Z rotation to 0, so it faces the player sprite. Alright, let's compile and go back to the level. The player in the world is already updated, so we can see the camera. When we select the player, we can see the camera view. Things looks good in the camera view, so I'm just going to go ahead to test the game. Great, this is actually what we want. Now we have the new player spawned, and we are controlling this player, even though we cannot actually move it, since we haven't covered the movement part of the player. But now the game mode is set in the right way, and we can delete the player in the world, since the game is going to spawn a new player every time the game runs. There are still some minor things to talk about here. First, the size of the capsule of the player start doesn't really matter. It's bigger than the actual player, but it does not affect anything. But if you want, you can scale it down like this. You can also change the size of the icon with the editor billboard scale. Another common thing to see, if the collider intersects with other collision shapes, it's going to say bad size. Let me reverse the size to show you how this can happen. Let me just move it slightly up and down, and you can see now it says bad size. That's because the capsule is intersecting with the tail map's collision shape. This bad size sign also doesn't affect our game. It's just trying to remind you there could be a problem if you try to spawn a new character here, because the collision shapes could potentially conflict. In the attempt to try to remove the bad size, I'm just decreasing the size of the capsule so it doesn't intersect with the collision shapes downward. All right, now it's back to normal. All right, that's pretty much all for this video. Before we wrap up, I'm going to switch to the left view and the lit mode so you can see everything is bright here. And we are going to fix this in the next lecture.